What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and we've got a big-time matchup on Saturday between Florida and Alabama in the SEC Championship, and I'm going to give you 5 reasons why, yes, each team will win. And I already planned to do this before Florida lost to LSU, and before watching that game, I felt like Florida had a chance. I really was still leaning towards Alabama pretty heavily in this matchup. But I could see some things where Florida could potentially have a chance to pull off an upset. And you could say, well, now that they've lost to LSU, there's no way they're beating Alabama. I don't think the team we saw against LSU was the team we're going to see against Alabama on Saturday. I think Florida will play much, much better. I think they overlooked LSU. I really don't think they prepared well for that game. I don't think they played very hard, made a lot of mistakes in the first half, and it came back to bite them. And again, I don't think that necessarily means they have no chance against Alabama. While I will say that their chances are pretty slim, they have some ingredients there to potentially give Alabama some trouble. I know Alabama is just a great team, and they look like the best team in college football this year. But who knows? Maybe that loss to LSU could have caused Alabama now to overlook Florida. Maybe they think, wow, this team's no good. They just lost to a team that we absolutely destroyed. We can just go in here and run all over them. It's not going to be any kind of a challenge. You know, that's one way of looking at this potentially. So maybe the LSU loss could help Florida in this game. Probably not, because Alabama, again, is just really, really good this year. But I'm going to give you 5 reasons why Florida could potentially pull off an upset here, and then also give you 5 reasons why Alabama will win, and win easily like they pretty much are expected to do. All right, again, this is not a prediction saying that Florida will beat Alabama. We're simply saying that if Florida does win, if they do pull off the upset, these will be the reasons why they get this win. We're doing this for both Florida and Alabama. And again, I think that there is a chance that Florida could pull off this upset. While they are big underdogs, I think it's unlikely that they win this game. There are some things that could potentially go their way, help them to maybe just pull off this upset and shake things up in the college football playoff picture. Let's start with number 5. We're going to count them down. Number 5 is their red zone offense. This is a huge strength for this Florida team. They've been very, very good in the red zone. In fact, they're among the best teams in all of college football in the red zone this season. They score 93% of the time, and they have 29, this is big, 29 red zone passing touchdowns. The next closest team is BYU with 20. They have 9 more passing touchdowns in the red zone than any other team in college football. And I know some of you will say, well, it's because they can't run the ball. They've struggled to run the ball in the red zone. They're just going to throw it. Well, maybe that's part of it, but you've got weapons like Kyle Pitts, who has been huge for them in the red zone, and we're going to talk about him more in just a second. He has 11 touchdowns. Also, Trayvon Grimes, big-bodied receiver who can make some big plays in the red zone. He's got 8 touchdowns this year. And the thing that I think really helps them here, or why this really benefits Florida, is because it's very, very difficult to run the ball against Alabama in the red zone. It's difficult to score, period, against them in the red zone. They're one of the best red zone defenses in all of college football. But I think it's a little bit easier if you can be effective throwing the ball, and that's something that Florida can do. You've got these big-bodied receivers. You can throw it up to Kyle Pitts, who is, I don't know who for Alabama is going to match up with Kyle Pitts. He is a matchup nightmare, and he's almost impossible to stop in the red zone. I think this is a big advantage for Florida, because a lot of teams this year, if you look at the stats, you look at the games, they've moved the ball up and down the field against Alabama decently, but they've then struggled once they've gotten into the red zone. If Florida can capitalize in the red zone and get some touchdowns, not settle for field goals, that is going to be really, really big for them. And if they're able to do that, that's an opportunity for them, or one of the reasons why they might be able to pull off this upset. So red zone offense, big, big, big for Florida. One of the biggest keys to this game, because again, I think they're going to move the ball up and down the field on Alabama, but can they punch it in the red zone? They're one of the best in the country. We'll see if they can get it done. Also, don't forget Kyle Trask. His running ability, we saw that against LSU a little bit. When you get there on the goal line, run it with a big quarterback. That can be effective, and I think you have to do whatever you have to do against Alabama. You don't worry about him getting hurt or anything. You've just got to score any way possible. And you've also got Jones who can come in at that quarterback position and run the ball. So I think they have options, and I think they'll have a very good game plan for scoring in the red zone. And I think that's something that could help them, again, to win this game. And just talked about Kyle Trask running the ball. He's the number 4 reason why Florida could potentially win this game. So to beat Alabama, you have to have elite quarterback play. You go back and you look at all of Alabama's losses under Nick Saban. The quarterback play, I'm not saying you had an elite quarterback in that game, but you had elite quarterback play. The exception might be last year with Auburn and Bo Nix, because Bo Nix, he made some big plays in that game, but I wouldn't say he was elite. That had more to do with the pick sixes and everything. But other than that game, and you look back at all of Alabama's losses, I really feel like the quarterback play is what got the other team to win. And the way Alabama plays defense is, if you can make a perfect play, a perfect throw, there are going to be opportunities. If you watch these games, a lot of times there are receivers that if you throw it just right, you can hit these receivers. You can move the ball in Alabama. And Kyle Trask has proven that he can do that. He has been one of the best quarterbacks in the country this year. I think was probably the front runner for the Heisman before last week's game against LSU. And if he has a big game, maybe he's back in that conversation. But again, he's just been so efficient throwing the ball. 70% completion percentage. That's what you have to do. You have to be efficient against Alabama. You have to find that open receiver. There may only be one place to go with the ball when you're playing Alabama. But if you find that right spot and you get the ball there, you can move the ball, like I said, and that's what Kyle Trask is going to have to do in this game. He's been very effective this year. Again, 70% completion percentage, 40 touchdowns, just 5 interceptions, and a couple of those just came against LSU. He's been phenomenal this year. And if he can go out and have a big game, again, that's going to give Florida a chance in this one, and also potentially get him a Heisman Trophy. If he goes out and they win this game and he has a huge game, I think he probably will win the Heisman Trophy, and it'll be redemption from that loss against LSU. But we're going to talk a lot about the Alabama. We're going to refer back a lot to the Alabama-Ole Miss game in this video, at least for the Florida side of things, because I think that they can maybe duplicate some things that Ole Miss did. Look at Matt Corral in that game. He was 21 of 28. He was very efficient throwing the ball, 365 yards, 2 touchdowns, hit some big pass plays. Florida's offense has really done that all year. They've been able to get those big plays. So I think there are some comparisons there. Efficiency at that quarterback spot, which is something Kyle Trask brings to the table, and could be big in deciding who wins this one. Let's go to number 3 now. It's the pass rush for Florida. This has been the one bright spot, I guess you would say, on this defense. Elam at cornerback has been really solid for them. I was going to maybe put him into this video, but Alabama just has so many weapons that I don't know if one cornerback is going to make the difference. Maybe he matches up with Devonta Smith and can take him away, and maybe he's not going to take him. I don't think anyone can take away Devonta Smith this year. He's just playing at another level. But what they can do is they can get to the quarterback, and we have not really seen Mac Jones uncomfortable at all this year. I mean, he has had plenty of time in the pocket. They've really never gotten to him. I mean, that's been a big part of his success. But Florida is the team that might be able to do that, might have the best opportunity to get to Mac Jones, make him uncomfortable, get some sacks. If you look at this pass rush and look at where they are statistically, they lead the SEC in sacks, over 3 sacks per game. And they are also number 2 in the SEC in tackles for loss at 6.6, which is number 2 behind only Alabama, of course. But they've been really, really good at that. And I don't think you're really going to get Najee Harris in the backfield very often. I don't think tackles for loss are going to be a big story in this game, because it's almost impossible to get Najee Harris down behind the line of scrimmage with this offensive line. But I think it's about getting to Mac Jones. It's about making him uncomfortable, getting a few sacks, not necessarily 5 sacks in this game, but getting pressure on him consistently is going to be, I mean, it's the only way you're going to stop this Alabama offense. They've proven that they're pretty much unstoppable. But if you've watched Mac Jones at times, when he gets rushed a little bit, he is not very accurate with the football. And that hasn't happened very often, which is why his numbers are off the charts. But when teams have gotten to him a little bit, it's and with any quarterback, that's kind of the story. Your accuracy is going to go down a little bit. And so I think that's what Florida is going to have to do. I think they're going to be very aggressive, bringing pressure. You look at this team, Ventrell Miller has 3.5 sacks. Brenton Cox has 3.5 sacks. Zachary Carter has 4 sacks. Just go down the list. They've got a lot of guys that can get pressure to the quarterback, and they can mix things up, maybe confuse this Alabama offensive line just a little bit, as good as they are. And if they can do that, if they can get a few stops, and again, we're going to refer back to that Ole Miss-Alabama game. Going back to that game, Ole Miss was able to score almost every possession. Florida, I think, has the type of offense that could potentially match that if they're clicking on all cylinders. The difference is Florida's pass rush can get a few stops. I think they will be able to stop Alabama a few times. Not very often, but they'll be able to make a few stops. They'll come up with a big sack on third down. They'll come up with a big play here and there. And if the offense can do what they need to do and the defense can do enough, it's going to keep Florida in this game and maybe give them a chance to pull off the upset if they can hang around in the fourth quarter. Let's go to number 2 now. It's Kyle Pitts and Kadarius Toney for Florida. We're again going to go back and make a comparison because this was just really interesting to me. When you look at Florida, first of all, and you look at their passing attack, Kadarius Toney has by far become the go-to guy at wide receiver. He has 62 catches. Number 2 is Kyle Pitts at 36, and he's missed several games. Wide receiver-wise, the next closest is Trayvon Grimes at 34, which means that Toney has almost 30 more catches than the next wide receiver. And then at number 4, it's actually Malik Davis out of the backfield. So they have not had a ton of production from all these wide receivers. It's really been Toney and Pitts. They've been the go-to guys, and then Grimes has stepped up and made some big plays as well. But why I bring that up, again, we're talking about a speedy receiver in Kadarius Toney and a really, really good tight end, the best tight end in college football in Kyle Pitts. 2 guys. Go back to that Alabama-Ole Miss game. It was really, in the passing game, just 2 guys that hurt them. Kenny Yeboah at tight end for Ole Miss, he had 7 catches, and Elijah Moore, who is similar to Kadarius Toney, he had 11 catches. Those 2 combined for 18 catches, 2 touchdowns, and over 300 yards. They were the passing game for Ole Miss, and just those 2 players were a matchup nightmare for Alabama. No one else on Ole Miss's team had more than 1 reception in that game. So they got it done with just 2 guys. And Florida is very similar. Again, 2 guys, a really talented tight end and a really speedy receiver. Kadarius Toney is very hard to match up against. He is one of the most elusive wide receivers in the country. And again, he's improved on his catching skills, his route running. A lot of things have improved for him this year. That's why he's putting up big numbers. But they have 2 weapons in the passing game that are very similar to the weapons for Ole Miss. And because of that, I think that really bodes well. If they can duplicate some of that success that Ole Miss had, that could really be a big story in this game. So watch Pitts, watch Toney. If Alabama cannot take them away, Florida's offense is going to have a big, big day. But the number 1 reason why I think Florida could potentially pull off this upset is their offensive aggressiveness. I believe Dan Mullen will come out really, really aggressive in this game, just like Ole Miss did. Again, you've got to duplicate that performance from the Ole Miss offense. You got to do what they did, and that was be really, really aggressive. Don't even hesitate. Go for it on 4th down when you have to, or when you have an opportunity. Throw the football, and that's what Florida is going to do in this game. I know you say you got to be balanced. You say Florida can't run the ball. Look, just go out and throw it almost every play. You're going to have an opportunity to make big plays. You got to mix in some run, of course, but I think they're going to throw the ball a lot. I think they're going to be very, very aggressive. Like I said, I think they'll go for it on 4th down several times in this game. Ole Miss was 4 for 4 on 4th down against Alabama, and it was just the fact that they didn't hesitate. They just went out there, they went fast, they got those first downs when it was 4th and short. Florida has to duplicate that. I'm telling you, they're going to have to be really aggressive in this game. They might have to do a trick onside kick. They might have to do some trick plays. I think Dan Mullen pulls out all the stops in this game. He's very aggressive, maybe the most aggressive gameplay. And teams against Alabama, they don't want to get too aggressive because they don't want to make a mistake and let the game get away early. Florida doesn't have that opportunity. They have to be aggressive, start to finish. They cannot, if both teams play at their best, they're not going to be able to beat Alabama. You're going to have to make some spectacular plays, be really aggressive, and play fast. Make these big plays, and if they can do that, if they can kind of do some of what Ole Miss did to Alabama, and I know Alabama has come a long way since then, but if they can do some of that, if they can get after the quarterback, have a little bit of a pass rush, just get a few stops, and score pretty much every time they get the ball, which is much easier said than done. But if they're able to do those things, then I think Florida has a chance to pull off the upset and win the SEC Championship. Alabama comes in as a heavy favorite against Florida in the SEC Championship, and I gave you 5 reasons why Florida could potentially pull off this upset. Well, there are more than 5 reasons to say that Alabama would win this game. I mean, there are a lot of advantages for this team. This is the best team in college football. I get it. There is a chance for Florida in this one. Like I said, if certain things go their way, maybe they could pull off this upset. But for Alabama, if they play their best, if they take care of business and do the things that they are supposed to do, they'll win this game. But I'm going to give you the 5 reasons that I think are the biggest reasons why Alabama will win. And again, if they do what they need to do, take care of these 5 things, they will take care of Florida. They will win the SEC Championship, and they will advance to the college football playoff as the number 1 overall seed. So let's start with number 5. It is Najee Harris. Najee Harris has been a matchup nightmare for teams this year. He is possibly the best running back in the country. He maybe doesn't have the stats because Alabama blows everyone out, and he's just not going to play as much, not going to get as many carries, although he does have 183 carries this year. But he's averaging 5.9 yards per rush, 1,084 yards rushing. But it's not just on the ground where he has 22 touchdowns. It's also through the air. He has 27 catches, 249 yards there. Just, again, a matchup nightmare coming out of the backfield. He's a big reason for Alabama's success this year. I know Mac Jones has been great. Devonta Smith has been great. But Najee Harris, I think, is underrated. Again, I think he's one of the top backs in the country. And I don't see Florida really stopping him in this game. It's going to be tough. Florida's defense has not been great this year. So this will be a big advantage, I think, for Alabama. And I think Najee Harris will run the football with ease. And if Florida cannot slow him down first, I think they're in big trouble. Now, if they can take him away and force Mac Jones to throw the ball, and again, get after him, get some sacks, get some pressure, get in his face, make him uncomfortable. If they can do those things, that's what they have to do. So I think it all starts with Najee Harris for the Florida defense. But I think that it's going to be tough for them to stop him. And I think if he has the typical Najee Harris day, Alabama should win this game. Let's go to number 4 now. It is Mac Jones and Devonta Smith. So really, I had both of these reasons listed, but I decided to put them together so I could get 5 because I couldn't get them all in here. Again, I had a lot of reasons for Alabama. But Mac Jones and Devonta Smith, the connection that they've had this year has been just amazing. I know everybody... We knew Mac Jones was going to be good for Alabama. We thought he would be able to, a capable quarterback for them. But I don't think anyone expected him to be quite as good as he has been. And same thing could be said for Devonta Smith, who has just been unbelievable. 83 catches this year, over 1,300 yards, 15 touchdowns. Now he's running punts back for touchdowns. I mean, he's basically unguardable. And, I know without Jalen Waddle, who potentially, I saw something where he could potentially be back for this game. I'm not sure. I haven't heard that for sure. But even without him in there, you've got other weapons as well. So it's just, you can't just double team Devonta Smith all the time. And even if you double teamed him, he still might get the ball because he's been that good this year. And Mac Jones has been able to find him. His numbers have been off the charts. A 76% completion percentage, thrown for over 3,300 yards, 27 touchdowns, just 3 interceptions. And again, doesn't even play the entire game a lot of times because they blow teams out. It's just no one has been able to stop this combo all year, and I don't know if it starts here. I don't know if Florida's able to do that. If they can, obviously, that'll give them a great shot, but I don't really see it happening. This is a big reason why Alabama will take care of business and win this game. Let's go to number 3. It's the offensive line for Alabama, which I think doesn't get talked about enough. This is maybe the best offensive line in the country this year. They have been really, really good. You've probably got 4 starters or 5 starters that are all going to be in the NFL. They've got depth there as well. This is maybe the best offensive line that Nick Saban has had at Alabama. I mean, they're just really, really good. They're always good. I just feel like this year's group is special. When you look at Mac Jones back there throwing, very rarely does he have anyone even in his face. I mean, he's got all day to throw. They're number 1 actually in the SEC in sacks allowed, so that tells the story right there. And also, if you look at the run game, they're number 2 in the SEC in yards per carry. So, I mean, they do it all. They're great in the run game, great at protecting Mac Jones, but that's going to be the big key here is protecting Mac Jones. Florida has a really good pass rush. They're going to come after him, I think. If this offensive line can hold up, it's going to be very tough for Florida defensively, because if he has a clean pocket, he's proven he's going to make the correct play. The receivers are very talented, and you're just really not going to stop Alabama if Mac Jones has all day to throw. So that's going to be one of the biggest keys, I think, in this game. And if Alabama can hold up on the offensive line and do what they've done all year, again, it's going to be tough for Florida to slow them down on the offensive side of the ball. So let's go to number 2 now. It's the improved secondary. Remember that Ole Miss game? They got torched, gave up some big plays, and you can just see the growth for this Alabama secondary from the beginning of the season until now. Yes, they've had a lot of young players. They had many new faces on that defensive side of the ball in the secondary, but they have rose to the challenge. It has been amazing to watch the improvement here. They're talking about Jordan Battle, Daniel Wright, Malachi Moore. These guys all with at least 1 interception. Malachi Moore has 3 interceptions. Josh Jobe, he's broken up 8 passes this year. They've been good in the run game as well. We're talking about those 3 guys I mentioned at first. Jordan Battle, he's got 52 tackles this year. Daniel Wright's got 49. Malachi Moore's got 41. He's also got 4 tackles for loss. He has just been a star for them. And again, a lot of these are young players. DeMarco Helms has been good, 38 tackles. Patrick Surtain is maybe the best cornerback in the country this year. He's pretty much developed into a lockdown corner. He pretty much just can't throw the ball his way. So, I mean, this secondary has come a long ways, and they've continued to improve all year long. And this is not the secondary that Florida wants to see. We know Florida likes to throw the ball, and it's going to be strength on strength. Which is better, Florida's passing game, Florida's wide receivers, or this Alabama secondary? I kind of lean towards the Alabama secondary just because there are really no holes anymore for them. Again, early on, they had some young guys still trying to get some things figured out. But if you look at this group now, there really is no weakness in the secondary. There's no guy that you can pick on. They are just one of the top secondaries in the country. They're elite. And Alabama's defense usually is, but we could talk about all of their defense, though. We could talk about the front 7 as well. I mean, look at Will Anderson. He's had 5 sacks this year. Christian Barmore on the defensive line's had 6 sacks. Christopher Allen's had 3 sacks. They get behind the line of scrimmage quickly. They're very tough to block. And just across the board, this Alabama defense has developed into a typical Nick Saban defense. And that's something we didn't see the last couple of years. They weren't quite as good as what we were used to seeing from Alabama, but they finally gotten back to that level. And with the explosiveness of this offense, plus a typical Alabama defense, this team is just scary good. And I think they are clearly the best team in the country. But again, we got to give all that credit to our number 1 reason why Alabama will win this game, and that is Nick Saban. Give credit to him for changing his offense, for developing his offense into an offense that you know more not the old school run the ball pro style type offense. He has transitioned his offense over the years into this explosive offense that's become one of the best in the country, which is just not what we saw back several years ago. And now he's been able to get his defense back to playing at the level that you would expect to see from an Alabama defense. They've been healthy. That is a big reason for their success this year. They've been really healthy. Haven't had hardly any injuries, which is something that hurt them the last couple of years. And maybe that's really the only reason why their defense was not as good as it usually is because of those injuries. So you see, now that they're healthy, Nick Saban, he is still the best coach in the country. Now, if Dabo Swinney were to beat him this year, I'm going to give him the crown. But I think if Alabama wins it all this year, Nick Saban still the best coach in the country. But more specifically for this game, it is a big game, and we've seen time and time again, Nick Saban in these big games is very tough to beat. And the fact that they had an easy time with Arkansas last week, you have to wonder, was Alabama, they knew how easy it was going to be against Arkansas. Were they already preparing, or not the team? I'm sure Nick Saban's not going to say anything to the team, but maybe he was already kind of starting to prepare for Florida. Because he just knew that, they weren't going to have any kind of a problem with Arkansas. So maybe he's even had more time to prepare. Maybe Florida tried to do that. Maybe that's why they lost to LSU. I really don't know. But again, this is the best coach in the country. He's going to have his team prepared as well as you can have a team prepared. He's faced all the challenges this year of COVID and everything. And that's why I picked Alabama to win it all in the preseason, because in such a strange year with all the distractions and everything, which coach do I trust more than any other coach? It's Nick Saban. And I think that's the biggest reason why Alabama will beat Florida. He's not going to let this team overlook the Gators. I know they just lost to LSU. He is not going to let them overlook Florida. He will have them prepared. And because of that, I think that is a big reason, the number one reason why Alabama will take care of business. They'll beat Florida, and they will win the SEC Championship.